Modern life presents a constant barrage of external temptations. Today, casual infidelity and betrayal are often treated as common hazards of navigating relationships. The Garuda Purana categorizes the breaking of a committed bond as a severe cosmic offense, rejecting the modern tendency to normalize betrayal. In this spiritual framework, marriage exists as a sanskar, a sacred, binding sacrament that unites two souls beyond the physical realm. That sanskar acts as the primary, load-bearing pillar. The entire lattice of civilized society rests on that specific commitment. Betraying the partner actively fractures that central pillar, sending shockwaves that destabilize the social fabric above. It is an act of spiritual vandalism. The exact transgression being judged here is the active choice to abandon moral boundaries in order to engage in illicit sexual relationships. It requires a highly specific psychological state. The individual must be completely blinded by physical desires while actively deceiving a life partner who trusts them. The math of this transaction is entirely imbalanced. A person trades decades of spiritual integrity and deeply rooted trust in exchange for a fleeting moment of physical gratification. Because this violation causes massive structural damage to both the individual soul and society, universal justice dictates an equally extreme mechanism to restore the balance. For this specific crime, the Garuda Purana outlines a terrifying, purpose-built destination. It is a hell realm known as Lalabaksh. This diagram breaks down the etymology, revealing the nature of the punishment. The first half, lala, translates to bodily fluids like saliva or semen. The second half, baksh, means to consume. The geography of this realm matches its name.
The text describes an impossibly vast, stinking pit, walled in by inescapable rock and filled entirely with a putrid, stagnant ocean of those impure bodily fluids. Once thrown into this abyss, the suffering soul is struck by a maddening, unbearable hunger and thirst. At the same time, the Yamdoots, the messengers of death, actively whip the individual. Driven by pain and severe dehydration, the soul is forced to satiate their thirst by drinking the foul liquid they are currently drowning in. The physical pain of the whips is secondary here. The true horror of this environment is the absolute, forced degradation of the human soul. Why did ancient jurisprudential scholars design such a grotesquely specific punishment? Why not prescribe a standard physical torture, like fire or ice? The environment relies on the concept of spiritual mirroring. The punishment is engineered to be a horrific, exact reflection of the individual's earthly obsession with bodily fluids and physical pleasure. The all-consuming fire of lust that blinded the person in life is violently suffocated, achieved by drowning them in that exact biological reality. The psychological goal is to force the soul to experience eternal, paralyzing disgust toward the very desires they chose to worship above their own family. Lalabaksh exists to prove a strict universal law. Unchecked, impure desires never lead to ultimate satisfaction. They lead directly to an impure, all-consuming end. The Garuda Purana functions as a manual for course correction, outlining a specific path to redemption for those still living. The first step to avoid this fate is prayashchit, or penance. This requires total acceptance of the sin, profound self-guilt, and a binding internal vow to never repeat the transgression. The second step is brahmacharya. This demands daily, active mastery over your physical senses and the deliberate cultivation of pure thoughts. The third step requires neutralizing negative karma through external action. This means practicing charity, feeding the hungry, and serving those who are helpless. Finally, the mind must be cleansed of residual impurities through focused spiritual devotion and mantra chanting. As this scale shows, applying these 4 steps consistently can eventually outweigh the heavy spiritual deficit caused by the initial sin. These 4 steps function as an active rehabilitation program, specifically designed to rebuild the spiritual strength that was temporarily lost to lust. The logical calculation presented by Lalabaksh is stark.
trading spiritual integrity and familial trust for a temporary physical climax is mathematically the worst possible trade a human can make. We often think of freedom as the ability to indulge every urge, but true liberation is found in the quiet, absolute power of self-restraint. Honoring sacred relationships provides a dual benefit. It protects society from collapsing under the weight of broken families, while protecting your own soul from cosmic degradation. Mastering base instincts provides a dual victory. It avoids the degradation of lalabaksh while refining the character for ultimate spiritual liberation, or moksha.